making everything about age and a number is just so tired to me. It is about healing and it is about like you making the active decision of like, you really want something. What the fuck are you going to do to get it?
For me, for so long, I felt really embarrassed to admit or acknowledge the fact that I do want kids.
From my point of view, I felt like it was like if you were feminist, you couldn't want a family too.
Also, the shaming of people like in their early 20s who want kids. And that being like, don't you want anything else? Like, don't you want to do anything else with your life?
Wow. What a, like, come
what
on.
a waste.
Like, don't you want a career? Like there's a whole movement going on.
When would you say that you need to have that conversation by?
Date 1. Hi, my name is Kelly and I want a baby. How are you?
Have you seen the TikToks going around of girls being like, I'm at the ripe old age of scared to get pregnant, but scared to not be able to get pregnant?
Yeah, that's my whole life right now. The first time in my life, like it's just so open right now. Like I could live in New York in a year. I could have a kid in, no, I'm not gonna have a kid in a year. But like, I think that
you have time to cook one.
Oh, Jesus, relax.
And like you always hear that you're never going to be ready. You're never going to be ready. You're never going to be ready. I think that there is a little bit of like there's a little bit of a gray area there. Like I would like to not have a majority of my income tied up in debt payments.
Very much anti-woman, this whole movement of like, no matter what, we can't win. If you're a woman who like knows they want babies and wants the family and wants to be even like a homemaker, then you're not feminist enough and you're not fighting the good fight where women are allowed to have careers. But then at the same time, it's portrayed in media and so talked about that if you're a career woman, you're like the bitter, cold spinster.
In a world where discomfort is actively avoided, therapy is not accessible to many, we have found that talking it out has been a form of free therapy in itself. I'm Chloe.
And I'm Kelly, and we dive into topics like death, divorce, disordered eating, debt, and every taboo topic in between.
With that,
who's ready to get taboo?
What the fuck is going on, dude? And like, I'm so overwhelmed and like I don't trust myself, but like he's like he doesn't hate Taylor Swift. And you made me a playlist, dude.
You know what I heard that was really helpful for me was
I'm so emo.
there's a girl that I follow that went through like she went through a divorce and then met someone very quickly after. And she was like very much like how we've talked about. It's like, I'm not going to rush into something. I'm going to like take my time and I'm going to be like deliberate and mindful and like actually take care of myself and listen to myself and all these things. And she's like, and then I met someone and it was just not what I thought I was going to do. Yeah. And it's not bad. And I think people really demonize like the move on too quickly, whatever. No one gets to decide that but you. Like no one gets to decide if something's too quick or too much or too soon, but like you are also the person that gets to decide when it's right. So to have so many green flags is why, like, here's what she said, that they had a conversation because she was like, I thought I was going to like go and travel and have my eat, pray, love moment. And like, I thought that's what I needed and what I wanted to do. So I was really kind of like, not stringing him along, but like being wishy-washy with him. And he's like, you know what? If you need to go do that, go do it. I'll be here. Like, go figure your He's like, I'll be here. And it's like, I'm ready if you are, but also if you need to go do this, you need to go do that. And nothing that I say or do is going to change you needing what you need. Right?
God, I love love.
And it's so good. And I just think that I can relate so much to where you are, but also that story helped me heal a lot of the shame that I had around like moving on quickly. Very quickly. I met Kevin very quickly. Like I met him we were in classes together, but we never talked or anything or connected until like it was probably, I want to say like 5 or 6 weeks after I filed for divorce. It was very quick.
But like, look at how it was meant to be.
But that's the thing. It's like, you don't have any say in when that person is going to come into your life. And there's so much that I really like needed from him to catapult my healing. So I think
I
that
love
there's
that.
like, I think it's, there's like a glorified
so glad you have
timeline,
him. Yeah.
right? Of how long you should stay single and how
Totally.
long you should be independent. But that is not cut and dry for anybody. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
it's like saying like, I'm going to date my person for this amount of years and then we're going to get married and we're going to be married for this amount of years and then we're going to have kids and then it's like having this checklist of like this perfect timeline.
Yeah.
It's not realistic and it's
Yeah.
not real life.
Yeah.
And so to sit here and deny yourself something that feels really good because you're sticking to this arbitrary timeline of what would appease other people,
Right.
I think is doing yourself a massive disservice because then you're doing it for not you anymore.
Totally.
You're doing it for the timeline and for what looks good to other people. But what I do think is good is exactly what you're doing, which is being honest about everything, like
Timelines.
what you've been through, timeline, like what you want, what your patterns are, being able to recognize your pattern and then being able to communicate it and say, look, this is my tendency.
Yeah.
This is what I need to be careful with. And I'm telling you this because I'm holding myself accountable, but I also need you to not like bulldoze this boundary or this area where I'm having self-respect for me for the first time.
Yeah.
I'm communicating this so you're aware of me trying to protect this.
Totally.
You know,
And I feel like that's what we've been doing.
Yeah.
Right. Like I told him, I was like, don't fucking love bomb me.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
And like, so I'm just going to tell you this because I want to hear so for me in my head, I'm like, I'm talking into the microphone like this is my podcast episode, but, you know, I can have sex and it be pretty emotionless. I think most of the sex I've had in my life has been that way.
Very disconnected.
I don't think I've ever had like connected sex. I can't imagine that. And it's not to like sound like a pathetic human. I just think that to me, sex is like about pleasing men, right?
It's what you've been conditioned to experience.
It's about like, that's how I get them to stay, which is awful. And something that I've really had to sit with in this time in my life. And so when I met him, I was like, he initially was like, I want to move slow because I've been burned and, you know, he's been broken up with multiple, like he's only had 2 relationships in the last 4 years and both they ended them because they were like, you're a nice guy, but because he's just nice. He's just a sweet boy. I didn't know this existed. I didn't know. I've never encountered someone who's just fucking nice and respects women. He has an older sister.
Green flag.
He loves his fucking family. They do everything together. He actually lives with them right now because he's saving for a townhouse.
Green flag.
Because he's going to use it to make income because his goal is to move to New York City a year before he gets married and has kids.
Green flag. Yeah. Like, it's so cool that there's that New York connection. This is,
but he's not a New Yorker.
Yeah. Which is honestly kind of cool because it's like, you guys are coming from the same angle.
Yeah.
And you're both drawn to the same place.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes like, you know, like if you're really interested in something and then you meet someone who is already so well versed in that, sometimes it can be disconnecting because there's like this gap of, it's like this, well, I already know all about this. You don't get to like learn and explore it together.
Totally.
So with something like a New York connection to both be drawn to that place, but not be from it.
I know.
I feel like you get to like, it could be something that could be yours together. You know, if this goes that direction.
Right. And that's the thing,
which I think is so cool.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's forward and honest about wanting kids, like that's
well, you know what his
answer
was?
You know,
the answer was something I'd never heard before because I told him, I was like, I'm a nanny.
Yeah.
And also like, he's like seeing pictures and videos of me at work with a baby. And he's like, fuck, it is so gorgeous to see you like with a kid. Yeah. Like you would be an incredible mom. Yeah. Okay. Take me now, sailor. Don't say that to me. But I was like, I love kids. I want a baby. Yeah. Point blank. The end.
So honest.
It's happening. And I like told him that like, for me, like having a baby is priority over having like getting married. Yeah. And he was like, I've never heard that before. And I really respect the hell out of that. And like, thank you for listening to me.
I'm so with you on that.
Yeah. Like, because marriage can happen at any time. Like I want a baby. Like I'm made to mom. These hips were made for
birth.
shooting out. So like, let's get on it, people.
Yes.
And I was like, what about you? Like, do you want kids?
Yeah.
Like, because I couldn't read that. Usually I can meet someone and I'm like, kid person, not kid person.
Yes.
Couldn't read it on him. Because he's really private.
Yeah.
And like stoic.
Collected.
I don't know. I don't know how to be around it. It's so hot, but so like, it's like alluring because I don't know. I can't figure him out.
Yeah. It's like he's
hot.
not chaotic and erratic and unpredictable.
Or emotional or like angry.
But there's a difference between being emotionally intuitive and connected to your feelings versus being erratic and reactive and explosive.
None of that.
And emotional.
The first thing he ever said to me was like, my biggest turnoff are people that are argumentative because why would you waste your time doing that? It's not worth it.
Kelly, this is crazy. This is like,
what?
Okay, so you may not have written down your list, but you have verbalized it.
Yeah.
And what I think is so cool, and this is the energetics of manifestation.
Yeah. No, totally.
It is these specific details of things that are important to you, things that light you up, things that make you feel excited about life.
Yeah.
Those things are naturally coming up in your guys' interactions. And to me, those are the universe's way of confirming, like, keep going after this, keep exploring this, because these are the things that you have stated that you want.
Yeah.
Here they are.
I know. In my lap.
Yeah.
I said this to him last night. I swear I'm getting
like
to
when you're like, I don't know. Well, it's like, no, this is another confirmation.
They won't stop.
Yeah.
Like listen, so with the sex thing.
Yeah.
I was like, we can't.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do that because I'm going to like, then it's going to propel us into a relationship. And like, I don't know how to do this, but I don't want to do this with you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm terrified.
Yeah.
Freaking the fuck out.
Yeah.
And he knows that. And he was like, no, I respect that, whatever. But like, there's so much sexual tension and I just want to fuck the hell out of him. And it feels so safe. We went to the drive-in on Thursday to see a horror movie.
Yeah.
Fucking perfect.
That's so fun.
And like, we're like making out in my car and it was so fun. And like, we both want it so bad. And like last night I was at my mom's and he was like, I think, cause like I had a moment of like overthinking.
Yeah.
I've actually had a lot of them. And he does this thing where he like will like put his hand on my leg when I'm not saying anything. He'll be like, you're overthinking it. You're fine. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. It's going to be okay.
Just like, so, well, can read the room.
Oh my God. And
where's
like,
recording?
Oh, fuck. Oh, we're recording right now? Oh, Jesus. Well, anyway, so he does that. And I told him, I'm like, okay, but I feel like you're judging me and that's freaking me out. And he's like, no, I'm an overthinker too. And I can see someone overthinking and I don't want you to overthink. Yes. It's all okay. Yeah. I can't take a man comforting me. Yes. This is too much. And then he said to me, last night he texted me and like, I was having a moment of overthinking yesterday because I let my guard down a little too much. And I was like crying because he sent me a playlist and it was a whole thing. Yeah. And I like shared that with him and he was like, honestly,
a playlist is so intimate. I just have to say that.
All of the songs are about like just wanting to fall in love. I can't.
That is one of my favorite forms of communication. Like, because it's poetry. You're sending me poetry.
He's sending me poetry. The playlist is just called Kelly. And like, it's all just about like just being tired of waiting. Yeah. And like, I understand that. Yeah. Oh, it makes me so emo. And so I like let myself start to feel for this person. Yeah. And that freaked me out. And I admitted I totally freaked out. Yeah. And then he was like, and he had a moment where he was like, honestly, Kel, which like, call me Kel.
Call me Kel.
Ugh. And he was like, it's really hard to be as into you as I am. But like to not be believed. He was like, I understand that you have really struggled and like you're going through it right now. And he's like, and I'm here for you and I will wait and I will like hold your hand through it. And he was like, but I have to be able to speak to you truthfully and be heard.
Kelly, that is so...
what do I do with that? It's it's so different than the...
yeah.
You know?
It is so healthy. It's so
I don't know, man.
It's just that is a very healthy way to communicate with someone because it's true. Like,
he's right.
Imagine if you were on the other side of that. Like you were dating someone who had been really thrown around, right? Yeah. And then you're like expressing these feelings and maybe not being met with it or being met with fear on the other side.
Totally.
and you get where the other person's coming from, and you can see like
Yeah.
where there's like healing to be done, all these things, right? But then like for you would communicate that.
Yes.
You would be like, hey,
Yes.
I'm into you, and
Yeah.
I want you to believe me.
Yeah.
Because that's important.
And he has a right to be believed.
Yes, exactly. And I think that there's such a specific way to say this, and I think he's getting at it, but to be able to say like, I respect and I hold space for the fact that you have been hurt and
Yeah.
wronged.
Yeah.
I have not done those things.
Totally.
I am like, I will be patient with you
Totally.
and I will sit with you through this, but I deserve more than
Yeah.
what these guys got.
That's exactly
right?
what he did.
You know?
Like he like put up this boundary where he was like, I am not them. And
Yeah.
he was like, I'm not asking you to fully trust me. That's something I have to earn. Hot.
Yeah.
But he was like, but I can't constantly reassure you if it's not gonna like make progress.
Yeah.
He's like, this doesn't feel productive because you're not listening to me, which he's right. He's 1,000% right. And like, I know that. And so then he like last night, like threw me a curveball and he was like, I think we need to have sex. He was like, you and I are both obviously attracted to each other. We both are into each other. We both have the same wants and desires emotionally and physically. And he was like, I think that we are putting so much pressure on the sex and that's not the issue here. He was like, I want to have sex with you. Too direct. I was like, holy fuck. And he was like, and you want to have sex with me. And he was like, I think what you're scared of is that we're going to have sex and that means that we're in a relationship. And he was like,
okay.
He was like, I have feelings for you.
Yeah.
And he's like, that doesn't mean I'm in love with you.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't know where that started to form in your brain.
Yeah.
He was like, but this is a slow burn.
Yeah.
He was like, the first time we kissed, I started feeling something for you. Then we went on these really great dates and I felt a little more. And he's like, this is a buildup. This is going slow.
Yeah.
And he was like, but also like, I want to share that moment with you. And I think that he was like, if I'm wrong, we can wait.
Yeah.
He was like, but I think that you are someone that what you've told me is that like physical intimacy is really important for you. And we are constantly hitting this wall because we're quote unquote going slow. He's like, you can be intimate and still go slow. I'm not going to have sex with you and then say, I love you.
Yeah.
He was like, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And we've talked about like, I'm not telling anyone about him.
Yeah.
Except for you now.
Yeah.
And he's not telling his family about me. And if we were to introduce people, it would be like months into dating.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Well, until you figure out what it is that you are doing and what you
Exactly.
want. I think that's really healthy.
and like, I want it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I want to have sex with him.
Yeah.
So badly. And not in like a get off way. Like, I want him to touch me.
Yeah.
I want him to fucking lay on top of me.
Yeah.
And I want him to like hold me.
Yes.
And so like, I told him, I was like, I hear you. And like, I got defensive last night.
Yeah.
I got upset. Like, I was like, great, this guy talks to me for a week and already he wants to fuck. And like, I got reactionary.
Yeah.
And I was like, of course, you're just like every other fucking guy. And he was like, what the fuck? He was like, I'm allowed to want to have sex with a girl that I'm into.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm not pressuring you. I'm not saying anything. He's like, in fact, I said, if
Yeah.
you want to wait, fucking wait. And he was like, but you are so convinced that I'm not into you. You're so convinced. And he was like, I'm saying it to you over and over again. And he's like, if my words aren't going to show you actions, right? Like, I'm trying here.
Yeah.
And I told him, I really want to have sex with him and that I am scared.
Yeah.
Very scared. I was like, it's not that I don't feel ready. I was ready the first time I saw you. I was like, I just don't want to fuck this up. Like, I don't want to move too fast.
Yeah.
I don't want to have sex with you and then be in love with you.
Yeah.
Because I'm not in love with him
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
It's just, but there's feeling. Like, I've never had someone.
Chem is a real thing.
Isn't it?
Yes.
And like, he was like, I don't understand why like we have to go from 0 to 100. Like, he was like, it's sex. And like, I want to do this with you.
Yeah.
And he's just so like straightforward about it. And like, sex isn't this like taboo thing. Like, he's just like, this is what we're 30.
Yeah.
He's my age. I've never dated someone my age, by the way.
You've only dated older.
Older.
Okay.
Only. He's 3 months older than me.
Okay. Yeah.
And like, I don't know, like, I think we're going to have sex. I think we're going to have sex.
Yeah.
And I really want to.
Yeah.
I
like that you've had time to think about it.
Yeah. Like 10 days.
Yeah. I like that you've had time to like really actually just like think about what you want to do with this person rather than in the moment just like jumping into something.
Tell me your do you think, what, am I fucking up? Am I making a mistake?
No.
Okay.
I don't think you're making a mistake at all, because I think, like I just said, you're thinking about things and you're sitting with it. You're like sitting with like and weighing your options and like really being mindful about it. And I don't think any of that is a mistake. If it feels good, I think you should do it.
It
Period.
feels really good.
I think if there's anything that at any point feels bad, sit with that.
Yeah.
But I think that you are doing that. You are sitting with things
every day. Dude, I'm listening to like where a week and a half ago I was in like a smallest man who ever lived.
Yes. Era. And now we're in a begin again.
Daylight.
The
prophecy. Dude, I can't with that fucking song. It's the saddest song she's ever written. But like,
for the not Swifties out there, we're naming our specific feelings with specific
songs. When is this episode going to be posted, by the way? Because I've got some shit.
It's like at least a month or two out.
Oh, thank God.
So just so you know.
I was like, holy shit, no one can know.
I know. I saw the panic in your face when you said we were recording. But this leads really well into what we do want to talk about, which is like parenting and kids.
Oh my God,
you know what I mean?
This is transition.
I've been thinking about this so much.
I'm looking something up really fast. I'm listening to you.
And I think it's because I'm having an eclipse set start in my 5th house, which is
you're getting so good about this.
Which is the 5th house is the place of like parenting, but it's also like creativity, your kids, like it's like sex for fun. It's like all of those. It's playful.
Okay, cute.
It's kind of associated with Leo,
obviously.
The sign of Leo.
Yeah. Not the man.
What?
Not a man. Leo, a man, not a man.
Oh, the sign Leo.
Yeah, got it.
You lost me, bro.
Keep going.
But what I think is really interesting about some of the stuff that you said and some of the stuff that I've been thinking about.
Okay, yeah.
And that's like my algorithm is picking up on.
Yeah.
Have you seen the TikToks going around of girls being like, I'm at the ripe old age of scared to get pregnant, but scared to not be able to get pregnant?
Yeah, that's my whole life right now. Yeah.
And
so real.
I've been thinking about parenting so much, and so many of the people that I, spent my 20s with and earlier than that even, but like are on their 2nd and 3rd kids.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me.
Crazy.
And it's just like for me for so long, I felt really embarrassed to admit or acknowledge the fact that I do want kids and I do want a family.
Why do you think that is?
I think that there's a lot of programming or a lot of messaging around not wanting to have a family and that being like really okay and like being kind of promoted or I think in a lot of ways like celebrated.
Right. Or like it's like from my point of view, I felt like it was like if you were like a feminist, you couldn't want a family too. You couldn't do both.
You can't do both.
Yeah.
And then also the shaming of people like in their early 20s who want kids.
Yeah.
And that being like, don't you want anything else? Don't you want to do anything else with your life?
Wow. Come
what
on.
A waste.
Don't you want a career? Like there's a whole movement going on.
Yeah, exactly. So it being really kind of shamed to want kids. And I think it's okay in your early, mid, even late 20s to be like, no, not for me. Like, I don't want kids right now, or I don't want kids. Like, that's totally an okay thing to say. But then all of a sudden, like, you get to a certain age and it's like you get to 30 or like your mid 30s and it's like you haven't had kids yet. And then people are asking questions or wondering or like I had someone last year say to me, like, when I was kind of freshly dating Kevin and they were like, well, do you want kids? Does he want kids? And I'm like, yeah, we do. We like, I haven't like really discussed we haven't, I guess, come to a decision or an agreement, I guess, at that point on like when we would want that because we have a pretty decent age gap.
Yeah.
And that person being like, well, it sounds like something you need to figure out because you're running out of time.
Running out of time is fucking
it was just like a crazy thing to say. And I wasn't right because it's just like, I feel like that has really, we've kind of all collectively agreed that we don't talk like that.
Yeah.
And so it was just jarring. I'm like, oof, Like, I thought we weren't
bold.
saying that shit anymore.
It's bold.
So it threw me, you know? And so it's like, it's this weird, and like at work, people ask and stuff like, oh, do you want kids? And there's a lot of people who are very vocal about not wanting kids.
Yeah.
And I think that is really cool that
dope.
you're able to do that now.
Yeah.
Because I think 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that was very frowned upon and not okay to say. And I have a lot of people who I really look up to, who, you know, like my aunt, who is like, you know, she's like a mom to me, and she decided that she didn't want to have kids, and that was her decision. And like people questioned her for it, but it just was like not for her.
Right.
And I respect the hell out of that.
I do too.
And, but then on the flip side, it's like, it's also okay to want.
That's why I feel like it's, I mean, I'm sorry, like I'm always going to be the annoying feminist that it's like, this is a this
is feminism.
It is. And it's like very much anti-woman, this whole movement of like, no matter what, we can't win. If you're a woman who like knows they want babies and wants the family and wants to be even like a homemaker, then you're not feminist enough, and you're not fighting the good fight where women are allowed to have careers. But then at the same time, it's portrayed in media and so talked about that if you're a career woman, you're like the bitter, cold spinster. So it's like, yo, I can't fucking win. And like, then it's like you start to turn, I'm sorry, it's basic, but like the minute we got into our late 20s, there was a huge shift in the algorithms of my social media. And like, obviously I control my algorithm too, but I'm not gonna let that happen. Like, there is this shift where there's like a lot of shit put on women when they get close to the 30s of you're running out of time. Yeah. You're running out of time. And like, that's just so aggressively not true. Yeah. I'm sorry. I had a mom who had a baby at 22 and then 37.
I had a mom who had a baby at 22 and then 43.
Yeah. Like, and is her life over?
No.
Is her like...
And honestly, if she hadn't got through menopause when she did, I think she'd still be having children.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
And I think there is something so beautiful. Like, I don't want to go on this rant, but like, there's this whole narrative that's been fed because like I want a baby. Yeah. Like I will proudly say that. I was made to be a mom. Yeah. And I know that. And I think that like being around kids and babies is one of the few things that I feel naturally confident in because I know I'm good at it. And I think I have a lot of love in my heart for my own child. And I think that what's crazy to me is this like narrative that's fed of like, oh, well, like you should have kids young so that you can enjoy being old. And it's like, okay, if the idea of bringing a kid seems like nothing but work to you and nothing but a struggle, don't have a fucking kid. Because I don't give a shit about having to support and love my child, no matter what age I am. My goal isn't to retire and live it up in my old age. My goal is to fucking love my kid. I want a family. I want like, I just want that unit so bad that if that means that I have a kid at fucking 40 and I'm raising it until I'm in almost 60, then I've lived a good fucking midlife because I get to have a baby. I would much rather do that than be like, oh, bio clock's running out. Get me pregnant now. Yeah. You know?
No, I know. And I totally agree. And it's, I think it can be challenging, being in your late 20s or early 30s and not being in an established relationship.
Completely.
Because it can kind of play up a lot of those fears. Because you're
Bingo.
like, oh, well, I need to know someone for years before I can. It's what is that old? Is it Sex and the City or is it Friends? I think it's maybe Friends.
It's
Monica.
Friends with, no, I think it's Rachel where she's like,
oh, she's like, she
turns 30.
Yes. And she's like, I haven't met someone and I need to be dating them for this amount of years before we can get married. And then we need to be married for this amount of years before we can have a kid. And like, she's doing all this math. And
she's like, so I need to be 30 by the time I meet the guy. And it's on her 30th birthday. And she's like, and then it triggers a whole like quarter life, midlife crisis situation. Yeah. And I just think it's so unhealthy.
So much so.
I want everyone to go touch some fucking grass. And if you're saying you need to have a kid by the time you're 30 so that you can have it raised and out of the house by the time you're like, 50 so you can enjoy your life?
Or being afraid that your body isn't going to like be able to have a kid too is like a real fear too. Yeah. But I mean, it's just like, I think if you're doing what you can, what you know to do to like keep your body like healthy and like, I mean, there's a lot of like outside factors that we cannot control that are affecting our fertility and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like you still are very fertile in your 30s, you know, it's like, and there's girls that I follow who are having kids like well into their late 30s or not even starting till like 36, 37. And that's okay. And it's like, I think it's refreshing as hell to have that as an example when you're thinking about it. Cause it's like, okay, I've kind of come to this arbitrary, I guess, age in my mind. I'm like, I really don't want to be starting any later than like 32. Cause I do want more than one kid. I would like 3-ish, you know, I could be convinced of, I could be swayed.
Totally.
You know, but that's also like, I don't know, then like your partner also has to be on board. And then like, for instance, being in a position like, you know, like what we were just talking about with you, like you're in the dating world, like you're meeting people and these are conversations that you do need to have.
Totally.
And I think earlier than later.
Yeah.
I think
right off the bat for me.
Yeah. What do you think? Like, okay, let's say you're like dating someone and it's kind of like the stereotypical, like you're going on X amount of dates, whatever.
Yeah.
What would you say? Like, when would you say that you need to have that conversation by?
Date 1. Sorry.
Yeah.
Date fucking 1.
Yeah.
I was just talking to someone about this, where I was really going. So the topics that I feel like are deal breakers are like, I think that like not childhood trauma, but like current baggage, feelings around marriage, feelings around kids and money. Those things, I'm sorry, but in my opinion, if whatever, I want to know fucking immediately so I can have all the information to make an informed decision that's best for me. And I feel like if I'm dating someone, that's what I want, because I have so many times dated fucking dudes and we don't have these conversations. And then it comes up like later because you don't want to come across as desperate. You don't want to come across as like pushy because we're girls and we can't do that. We have to like be cool and chill and like whatever.
Accommodating.
Yeah. No, you know what? Fuck that.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Kelly and I want a baby. How are you?
Yeah.
Like, and if that doesn't work for you,
and I'm not saying, and it's like, and it's not in a way, I think you see in like movies or TV or whatever, like in the media, people, or it is messaged to us that the demanding, like hyper fixated woman who wants
bullshit.
a baby.
Yep.
And it's like,
bullshit.
she's just dating so she can get pregnant. It's like, that's not it. I'm just being forward about the fact this is something that I want. And if you want to dick around and not do that for another 10 years, like
you're still figuring it out.
Yeah. You're still figuring it out. No, you're fucking not.
No,
you just don't know what you want.
You're
and
a pussy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Like, just say yes or no.
It's just make a fucking decision and have some integrity in it.
Yeah.
Like,
and if you're torn about it, it's probably a no. To be honest with you.
No, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
Yeah, exactly.
Or it's not a yes right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can say not right now.
Yeah.
But like you know if you want a fucking kid. I'm sorry.
Yes.
That's where I'm at. I'm not saying that's healthy or right.
No,
but
and dude, and I've been ovulating this last week and it's like
for you.
literally all I could think about
it.
is like procreating. And I'm like, but it's honestly, I will say it's like the first time in my life that I've actually been excited about the idea of having like getting pregnant and having a kid. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
It's like, I think it's like there's finally a shift where I feel like I feel safe enough in my relationship, in my job, maybe not my living situation, but like, I feel like things are starting to align where in the next couple years, I could be in a place where I'm like, I'm ready. I want this. I want to do this.
So happy.
You know,
and that's the work though, right? Like, and I do think that there's something to be said, like whenever someone has like parents, when they have their kid, that's when they were meant to have a kid, right? Like I think that young parents, like there's so much to be said about that too. Like
there's so much to learn.
There's so much to learn. And like, you know, we had young moms and and my mom always says this, like, I got my mom at her most energetic, most playful, most adventurous. So I had like a really fun time with my mom. Yeah. But then, you know, like Kathleen got like the most classic family, my middle sister, like classic family setup. Like we lived in the burbs. We like, you know, our parents were married, like whatever. But then like, and that's really great and stable and awesome. But then Emma, who's 15 years younger than me, she got my mom at like the most emotionally mature, like evolved, lived her life.
Yeah.
And I think that's really beautiful. So there's no right time to have a kid is my point. But I think that there's something to be said about having a kid when you have lived enough time or lived enough years to wait for stability.
Yeah.
You went to school, came back home, got the fucking job of your goddamn dreams and are working every day to keep growing in it, which is so important. And you're paying off debt. You've been in motherfucking therapy.
Side note, paid off my big credit card. That was, so I have officially paid it off. It was $23,000 and I paid off this week.
Yeah. I made the last payment.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Chloe.
Thanks. Yeah.
Oh, that's
She's
so
growing
amazing.
up.
You're growing up and like you're making these shifts that like even when you started making them, you know, obviously I'm assuming that there wasn't like, well, I got to have a baby, so I got to do these things. Like it wasn't on the forefront, but all of these shifts are happening because you are growing up and you're getting to the place where it's time to have a kid. And I think that's what's so important. Instead of putting like a number on, oh, you're 30, it's time. Why aren't you married? Why aren't you doing all these things? Like, no. How is your debt? How is your mental health? Do you have a supportive partner? You don't like, there's so many different ways to build a family and you can make a family whatever the fuck you want it to be. But I think that where I know that you've always like wanted kids, it's always kind of been like you being like, I want kids. But there was like that fear of like, but fuck, there's so many other things that need healing. And now like we haven't talked about you having kids in like, you know, a little, I feel like it's like once a season.
Yeah.
But
I feel like, once a season is a good way to put it. And to touch on your point about what you're saying about there's no right time.
Yeah.
I say this a lot in my job that if I had been a nurse 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been a good nurse. Just like I feel like if I had been a mom 10 years ago, I think I would have perpetuated a lot of the generational shit.
Totally.
And I think that where I am now and the fact that I've given myself space to process a lot of the things that I've experienced and kind of come into myself a little bit more, I think I'm in a place now where I can change the tone or like kind of what's the way, but just like not perpetuate that generational trauma.
In nerd things, Game of Thrones, you're going to break the wheel.
Break the wheel.
You're breaking the fucking wheel. You're Daenerys Targaryen.
That.
Break that wheel, bitch.
I don't know what the fuck we're talking about, but yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And that makes me excited because I feel like I'm in a place where I can really, I feel secure enough in myself that I could parent.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah. I understand that big time.
Because I think even it kind of scared me actually. Last year, even I was around some of my friends that have kids and I wanted to die, like being around children. I was like, this is so like,
I honestly remember you talking about it and I was like, damn, is she shifting around kids a little bit?
Yeah.
It was just that they
triggered me
overstimulated you.
Yes. That's such a good way to put it because I was in such a
stimulated place.
Yes. And like
she was
all
on
my panties were in a wad, my feathers were ruffled. Like I was just edgy, you know? And I think I was so glad that I didn't have kids in that season.
Sure.
But now I'm like, okay.
The dust is settled.
The dust is settling.
I like
that was a lot
more.
of transition all at once, but now I feel like I have the capacity or the ability to like step into that role when it comes.
Yeah.
And not to say that like life won't get hard again.
It will, of course.
But I feel like I've created enough stability around myself that I can't get rocked like that again.
I think it's really fucking dope to watch your friends go through this. It's like a lot of privilege, you know, watching you go through this huge transformation and like not grow up, Jesus, but grow up and like really make the moves and the steps to like just better your life or set up your life the way that you want. I've watched Cody and Taylor do it for almost a decade now. And it's just like the come up is such a good part of the story. It's almost like the come up is my favorite part versus like the end result. And I think that watching you this time last year compared to now is jarring.
Last year I was crying on your couch, not able to deal with just day to day.
I couldn't even ask you how you were doing. No. And it's just like, this is why it isn't like making everything about age and a number is just so tired to me. It is about healing and it is about like you making the active decision of like, you really want something. What the fuck are you going to do to get it? You know? And it's like the work that you've been doing this last year isn't easy. I mean, Lord knows just your living situation alone is tough, dude. Yeah. And it's like to see you get to this place where you're like, I would be a good parent is crazy. Yeah. It's so exciting.
No, that it is actually crazy to say something like that. Yeah. But I think also to go back to kind of what you were saying about dating and having these conversations, like, I think,
Jesus.
Sorry, I have so many thoughts going through my mind all at the same time. There's like so many things I want to say, but like,
that makes me horny. Anyway.
It's kind of the same, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. It's the same. I have a similar feeling of what you're describing and what you're seeing in me, where a couple partners ago, you were in a place where you're like, no, I'm good. I don't want kids.
Oh my God. That makes me cry thinking about that. I can't believe sad
that. Because it was, and we've talked about this, I think, before in other episodes, but it is kind of accommodating that person and like absorbing their personality and their wants and desires because you're not secure enough in yourself to walk away from something that you know isn't everything that you want. Yeah. Which I'm not saying you're the only, I did that for a long time too. It's why I can recognize it.
But here's the hat, of doing that. And I'm just going to put that right on my head until very recently. Yeah. You're queen of that. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. I think it's a part of being in your 20s too.
No, and I think it really is. And you have to kind of like try a few things on because you're like, oh, well, this person that I love doesn't want kids and I really love them.
And I can't picture myself having kids at 20 when I'm in college and living in a shitty apartment.
So maybe I don't want them.
Maybe it's not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. And so it's really easy to, I think, come to that conclusion or make that proclamation.
Yeah, for sure.
But then like, as you get older, and this doesn't happen to everybody. Some people just know that they don't want kids.
Absolutely.
Some people know that.
When you know, you fucking know. Yes. Both sides of the spectrum. Yes, right? Exactly. You do or you don't. Yeah. It's absolute. Yeah.
But to see you now out of relationships, but like considering entering into new ones, like, and dating and interacting with people and being so forward about like, no, this is me. Yeah. This is something that I do want. Yeah. And it's not, doesn't have to be something that you want, but like, if we're going to continue, this is criteria.
Put it all out there. Yeah.
And it's freeing. It's like to be so in yourself and be so honest and direct about it is so hot.
Well, thanks. Yeah. I think it's like, you know, obviously we're talking about kids and stuff, but I just think I'm really proud of us. I think it's just been a really transformative year. I think that 2023 and 24 were like the years that we did grow up and step into ourselves. And that's like a lifelong journey. You know, we don't have it figured out. I think it's ever changing and all of those things. But it is like, to call back to our lying episode too, at the very minimum, I don't know when I'm going to meet my partner, my life partner. I don't know when, I don't know anything about my life. And that's like kind of dope, right? It's all just open.
It's kind of exciting.
It's very exciting. Because there's
like a lot of possibility.
Yeah. Like it's just for the first time in my life, like it's just so open right now. Like I could live in New York in a year. I could have a kid I'm not going to have a kid in a year, but like, I think that
you have time to cook one.
Oh, Jesus, relax. That makes me sweaty. I need to be more financially stable because she's getting old.
I know.
I think I lost my train of thought.
Well, hold on really quick while you're thinking of your train of thought. That's something that a lot of people say. It's like, oh, I want to be more financially stable, or I want to have these things, or like I want to be in this place. And like you always hear that you're never going to be ready. You're never going to be ready. You're never going to be ready. I think that there is a little bit of like there's a little bit of a gray area there. Like I think there are certain things that like make it a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, you know? Dude.
Like I understand what people are saying when they're like, you're never going to be ready. True. Yeah. You're true. True.
But it's kind of like you staying at Baca's. Like you could always be saving more money.
Yes, exactly.
Right? It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. Right. But I would like to not have a majority of my income tied up in debt payments. So, right. Yeah. You know, like there's things like that where it's like, no, I get where you're coming from, but like give it 2 more years and I'm going to be like in a wildly different place than I am now.
Well, and I think about this a lot with children, right? Yeah. Like having children, right? Is that like, I grew up with a single mom, right? And she worked her fucking ass off and gave me this incredible fucking childhood that There's nothing that I look back on it and I'm like, ugh, because I didn't know anything else and I was happy.
Yeah.
But like, I've thought about this or wondered this about my mom. Like, has she ever stopped and been like, man, if I had, you know, stayed with Kelly's dad and he was a different person and she was married to someone who had the income of a firefighter, like, how would my childhood be different? Right. So like, yeah, she had me at 22 and she gave me the best fucking childhood in the world. But like, I do think that there's this little bit of a gray area of like, well, what would things have looked like for not only me growing up, but also her? She had to sacrifice so fucking much to give me everything that I had, that it's like, I do think there's a gray area where, yeah, you can always have more money to support your kids so they have more opportunities. Sure. Like, there is no right time, but I do think like there's a certain level of stability that like takes a raising a kid from one point to another drastically.
Huge.
I think that.
Well, I think we've seen it with our sisters. Like, as our parents have gotten more financially stable, our sisters have had very different childhoods than the childhoods that we had.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, and to see that, I think you can't help but observe and learn from it and take notes.
Yeah, totally.
You know, because there's a lot of we talked about, like, our kids were our parents.
Manifestation.
Weird Freudian slip. Our parents were like very, playful, young, like doing things different. But like, there was a lot of times where like my parents couldn't show up to things because they were working. Yeah. Or a lot of things that we couldn't have because my parents were young and didn't have the resources. Yeah. But now, like, it's the same thing like what you said about with like your sisters at the different ages that they are. I have sisters in different ages as well. And I have watched, you know, like my mom get to be a different mom with each of them and like learn things along the way and change her, like, just as she's grown, like so is her parenting. Yes. And it's really cool. And like the younger girls like get to have like, they just get different things, different opportunities. Yeah. Which also I had different opportunities too. Like there was just, and we grew up in different times. Like, so I think being able to witness that and then take from it what you want to into when you're thinking about going forward with how you want to parent. Yeah. Like you can't not do that.
Completely. And I think it's really like important. You know, I think what's so beautiful about parenting, I think I was writing about this the other day, is that like, this is how you know that parenting really is a lifelong journey though, right? Because I am a grown ass woman. I am 30 years old, living completely independently from my mom and all of that. But like, she's still teaching me lessons. Yeah. Right? Like from afar.
Yeah, because people always are like, oh, well, that's a commitment for the next 18 years.
Yeah, 18 years. Thank you for saying this. It's lifelong.
Like, you're just going to not be a parent anymore when they're 18?
Kid. It was fun.
That is one of the saddest things I think that gets perpetuated or...
I meant to say this earlier. If you have that mindset, don't fucking have kids. Yeah.
It's not an 18-year commitment. It's a lifelong commitment because you are, like you just said, you are still going to be in a older, wiser role and position from your child as you grow and learn, which hopefully you're fucking doing continuously throughout the rest of your life. Then you get to teach your kids constantly.
And I think that the thing that is so cool is that like when you have a kid or kids in general, like humans, we're just so observant. And so like my mom isn't sitting there like giving me lessons or lectures, but like I'm now this like adult with these like enough lived experience that I just watch my mom and I'm like, well, what is she doing and how is she handling this? And like, you know, relationships, love, money, home life, whatever it is, like she's my mom and I'm always watching her. And that's why I think that when people, if they're contemplating having children, I think that is like one of the biggest things that you need to stop and think about is that like, this isn't like just a phase of life. This isn't just a step. This is something that you are creating that becomes a part of you forever. Forever.
And you know, you just reminded me of something is I saw this video and this girl was a nanny. Yeah. And she said that she like watched these kids that she was nannying and they were so kind and so polite and so respectful and thoughtful. And the girl was like, I asked the mom, like, what did you do? Like, what is your hack? Like, what would you say, like, made that shift or how did you get such great kids, you know? And she was like, parenting is a sham. Like the whole, like all of it, it's a scam. Like it's a bunch of bullshit. What works with kids is leading by example. All they do is watch you.
Yes, correct.
So it doesn't matter what you tell them. It matters what you do.
Actions speak louder than words.
So much louder because kids are so observant. So she's like, my kids are kind and loving and thoughtful because that's what I do.
Beautiful.
I had to make that life shift for me, or that approach shift so that I could teach my kids that. And I watched it actually. As soon as I saw that video, I immediately thought of my friend Ashley because when I was with her, just when I've been with her daughter, she's I think 3 now, which is crazy, but just so precocious and just like a really intelligent kid, and emotionally intelligent. But she, when you ask, oh, like, can I have some? Everything is, of course. Oh, of course. And I'm like, Ash, that is so cool that she's so like, her responses are so like gentle and like, yes, of course, have some of this. And she's like, I try really hard to like have my responses be that to her so that she learns that.
Totally.
And I'm like, oh my God, duh. Like, and it's been really cool watching her parent because I get to see like, I don't know. She has changed so much in a really good way. Like, and I imagine like this video that I watched of this woman saying those same things, but it's like you have to do so much personal growth and so many personal shifts to teach your kid.
Right. Well, because I think I couldn't agree more. Like I've thought about this a lot, and like I really do think that nannying is what has set me up to feel like I want a kid. It sealed the deal, right?
Yeah. Ooh,
and I think I feel like the thing with parenting, I've watched many different types of parenting over the years I've been doing this now. And it's like everything else with parenting, strip it the fuck down. I don't have a kid, so I'm speaking from what I've observed. Obviously, I haven't experienced it, but
this is also your daily work.
I live in households with families. This is what I do all the time. And I feel like it doesn't have to be that fucking deep, right? I'm watching parents in our world where it's like, you know, eat all the things and we got to like get them the right toys and we got to do this and this. And it's like, for me personally, no, it's about
so much
you.
more simple.
It like go to fucking therapy, heal your fucking shit, learn to goddamn love yourself. And then if you raise a kid and you are just so genuine in everything that you do, you don't have to be perfect. Just show the fuck up in a genuine way. You're going to have an incredibly emotionally stable and happy kid. And like, you know, I can speak to like my favorite thing that my mom like ever did is, you know, even in moments where like she would get overstimulated or stressed about something or like whatever, my mom always said she was sorry. You know, like she just would really show up. And there's so many memories I have as a kid where she'd be like, yo, Kel, I'm really stressed. Here's what's going on. She was honest with me. She was straightforward with me. And then she'd be like, I'm so sorry. Yeah. And I think that that's the thing is that everyone is just so afraid to fucking move. The kids have to eat organic. Not that there's anything wrong with eating organic, but like the kids have to be on the diet.
There's a perfectionism thing and not wanting to fuck up your kids.
And there's like a status quo thing.
Yeah. And then like, because I see a lot like, oh, this is the first time they've ever had sugar. And it's like, and I get it, but also to a point. Yeah. Like there's just like, you can't be so rigid. And I've had like a lot of close friends who have started to talk about that and share like, oh, this is the first time, you know, they've had this or I used to say no to these kind of treats. Yeah. And now I'm just realizing there's bigger battles and it's not the end of the world.
Well, and why are you I'm sorry. This is coming from a place that like, I'm not as health focused as you. I do understand that it's important. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm always going to be that parent that like, I am not going to take away a core memory of baking in my kitchen with my kid, having a donut at the pumpkin patch, having a Christmas tree. Yes. I am not taking away those core memories because of fucking sugar, because of some like trendy agenda where like maybe in 10 years, we're going to be like, actually, it's okay that you like you just never know. Yes. I'm not saying
no. I totally hear what you're saying.
I
think that I completely agree with you on that.
You're taking away from like all of my happiest memories are like having treats with my mom and my grandma and my aunt. Like that makes me sad for you. Because it's bigger than
the treat, you know. But like it's the memory and it's like getting to bond over something and like getting to bake something together and treats are fucking good. There's a reason we love them,
girl.
Yes. But you reminded me of something else when you were saying like, my mom like apologized, all those things. I think my algorithm is really geared towards parenting right
the
now.
ovulation needs to calm the fuck down, girlfriend.
Crazy. Fuck. But this mom was saying that they were getting ready to leave for school and she couldn't find her purse. She looked all over the house, couldn't find it. And she's like, okay, surely it'll be here. Surely it'll be here. And it wasn't like in any of the places. It took her 15 minutes. She finally found her purse.
Fuck.
And she got in the car and she's like, girls, I'm so sorry. Like, whatever. Then they're driving. And one of her daughters says, Mom, I have to say something. And I don't want you to feel bad because I know you already feel bad. But it's just something I need to say. And she was like, in our house, you can always say something. She's like, delivery matters and tone matters, but you're always allowed to say what you need to say.
Of course.
So she's like, so my daughter told me, she's like, I just have to say that if it was one of us that couldn't find our backpack or couldn't find our, whatever it was, we would have left. And you would have said, we're not all going to pay the price for your lack of preparation.
Good for that kid. That's fucking awesome.
And she was like, so I just feel like it wasn't fair that you didn't prepare and now we're late for school and we're going to miss the first part of our school assembly and we're going to like be late and all this stuff. And the mom was like, you're 100% right. You are so right. And she's like, and I'm so sorry because if the tables were turned,
I have goosebumps.
It would have been, you're exactly right. I would have said all those things because those are things that are important. Being prepared, not making other people pay for your lack of whatever.
Yeah.
And she's like, and so she's like, and I had to own it. And it is, I think she's like, that was confirmation that I'm doing a good job as a parent. Was to be kind of lectured in a way.
Held accountable.
That's a way better way to put it. But held accountable by my kid because it tells me that what I'm teaching them is effective and they understand it and they can apply it to anybody and no one is like above that standard.
Yep. I think that,
it just healed something in me.
I think it's really the last family I worked for, the one that I worked for the longest, EJ and Alma's family. It was one of the things of parenting that I will take away from them is that, like we've said this before on this podcast, like, guess what? Kids aren't fucking stupid. Yeah. Kids are always observing you. And in a lot of ways
more than you see in yourself.
Sure. And yes. And I think I said this quote to you, but honestly, Billie Eilish rocked my world with it. There's like the interview that recently came out where she was talking about her first album and she was like, I got so much critique on it because it was so like emo and like full of like all of these big feelings. And she was like, I was a kid. Yeah. I was a teenager. When you're a kid and a teenager, the only thing you have in life are your emotions. You have nothing else. You have no autonomy.
Everything feels huge.
So like, but you're the most in tune with your emotions when you're a kid. Just because
it hasn't been programmed out of you.
It hasn't been programmed out of you. It's the most raw. And yeah, maybe you can't regulate it, but that's not the point. The point is like they are so emotionally in tune that when you have and observant, that when you have children, they're fucking watching you and all of their observations are usually correct. And so the last family that I worked for, they were so intentional about not doing the like EJ and Alma would do something. And like one of the parents like initially would be like, hey, don't do that. And they'd be like, you guys do it all the time. And instead of them being like, well, I'm a grown up, they'd be like, you know what? You're right. And unless it's a safety issue, like drinking alcohol, for example, they were just like, you're right. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, all you have to do is lead by example. Yeah. Don't there's so many fucking books. There's so many fucking TikTok. Don't do this, and this with parenting. And it's like, no, just intentionally lead by example. And when you fuck up, because you are going to fuck up, those are the moments where your kids are learning the most. As long as you say sorry and as long as you fucking own it.
No, I think that's something that is so formative is a parent that can apologize.
I've said that to Steph for years.
A parent that can take accountability and apologize. Even
shout out to those parents.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to do. And I think you have to be able to be secure in yourself and not see everything as a threat.
Right. And No, you
like,
go. I didn't
no,
mean to cut you off.
just like I think it's okay to be told like, hey, that didn't feel good.
Yeah.
And it not be like a threat to you as a parent. It doesn't mean you're a bad mom. It doesn't mean you're a bad parent.
get rid of the absolutes.
Exactly.
Jesus fuck.
It's like, this is fluid. We're doing this dance together.
And also when you do the, I guess I'm a bad parent, fucking cop out on your shit.
Yeah.
That is so dramatic.
No,
I think
is.
that is so dramatic.
If you haven't followed the holistic psychologist, it is a good follow. She breaks down a lot of challenging family dynamics and challenging personalities within families. And I think it's really healing when, you know, you've had kind of like this, like, I think it's very common to have like wounded people raising kids,
of course,
creating new wounds because of their wounds.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you look at things, or the way I see things on like an energetic scale, your kids are here to teach you.
Yep.
Like they chose to come through you to learn from you, but also to reflect back to you. And it's, I think on a soul contract level, I think that is what we're here for. We're meant to engage with each other. But what can be tricky is when there's not like the accountability, or there's not the ownership of like recognizing when your feelings are hurt.
Yep.
And your kid is invoking that in you.
Your kids are teaching you just as much as you're teaching them.
If not more.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
Huge.
So like we need to get rid of this power dynamic. Like your job
that's so true.
Yeah, like your job as a parent isn't to fucking boss your kid around and assert dominance over them. Your job is to keep them safe and to love them, and it is your responsibility.
And to protect the space that they're in so that they can figure out who they are.
Yeah, and if you can't handle that, then you're not ready to have a fucking kid.
Yeah.
Because like you sitting there like telling your kid what to do all the time and just telling them to stop is lazy. And you're not getting like the full potential of like learning from your kid.
That's a good way to put it. It is lazy because it's a lot less work to just tell them what to do rather than to show them how to do it.
And it's like about like in my laziest moments where I'm just like, stop. Like with EJ and Alma, they were at ages like they were 2 and 6. The most like and like everyone has bad days. Every parent has bad days, right? And I think that's important, is that like parenting is the hardest work you can ever do. So like you're gonna fuck up. That's valid. And I think that you're gonna have days, at least for me as a nanny, where I just don't have it in me to do all of the intentional leading by example.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, the days where I wasn't in a good place and I would show up and instead of redirecting, finding creative ways to get their energy out or encourage their creativity when they were feeling rambunctious, the days that I would just say, stop, just stop. I felt like fucking shit.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I'm not doing anything for them. I'm tired of saying stop. They're tired of hearing it. They're not listening to me. Like, you don't get results doing that.
Yes. You're reminding me of, there was an instance where...
Wait, can we pause? I have to pee. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to piss so bad. I'm going to explode. God, sorry.
You did great.
Okay, I'm reminding you of.
So... Welcome back.
Yeah,
you
thanks.
reminded me of this time where I had gotten my dog a new toy.
Yeah.
And it was really squeaky.
Yeah.
And he's just sitting there and he's squeaking. And Polly and I are sitting there and I'm just like, dude, I want to take that toy away or tell him no. But he's not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
He's literally playing with the toy the way he's intended to.
Oh my God.
I'm overstimulated. And this is really hard for me right now to not tell him to stop.
Yeah.
And she was like,
yeah.
She's like, that is really good parenting.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think about it in that way, but it is. That's parenting.
Yeah,
like, because kids are going to play with these loud toys or like whatever, the drum set that their grandparents got them. And you're like, whoa, like it's so easy to be overstimulated. Like I remember like when I was a kid and we were in piano lessons, but like it was annoying every time I tried to practice playing piano. So it's like, then I would show up to piano lessons and the teacher's like, did you practice? I'm like, yeah, total lie. But every time I tried to practice, I was told not right now because it was overstimulating.
Yeah.
So I think about that in ways, you know, like going into parenting, like you have to really check yourself a lot. And I think that's a really hard thing to do. I don't know about you, but do you like, this is also just like ovulating talk going on, but like, do you have like folders on your social media, like saved for like parenting things? No, that's
I think, can
Bully,
you hit him?
no more.
It's too much.
bully, no scratching.
He's going fucking crazy. I don't have, I don't because I don't utilize social media very well, like in that way.
Yeah.
I don't have folders. I don't have any of that. I think that, yeah, I know. Yikes. I think that mine is coming from like, it's truly like lived experience.
Yeah.
And
Like you see it on a much different scale.
I know what I am going to be prioritizing.
You're practicing it.
I am. Yeah. And I think that I'm just like, I feel so fucking privileged. Like truly, if you had asked me 5 years ago, like, where would you be? I would not say working in like 25-year-old Kelly would not have been like, oh, like I'm going to be 30 working in childcare. Childcare was never in the plan for me. But let me fucking tell you, like when I finally was able to realize like I want to be a parent, I think that working in childcare is like what propelled me into knowing it for sure. And I just every day am getting to sit and watch these different families from different socioeconomic backgrounds with these completely different stories, raising their fucking kids mixed with like my mom and watching her still, you know, raising my youngest sister and I mean, still raising all of us. It is a lifelong thing, but I don't necessarily have the folders because I have anxiety about trying to over prepare. I think if I think about it too hard, I think if I watch other people parent, I'm going to start to compare myself.
Oh, interesting.
I feel incredibly confident in my abilities.
Yeah.
It's the only time in my life. It's the only path in my life where I think I can fucking do it because of exactly who I am.
Yeah.
Really fucking well.
I think that's really helpful to keep in mind because I feel, well, kind of two things.
Yeah.
So I have gotten to watch for a lot of years, watch people parent. And I've noticed this pattern with myself that I have a lot more confidence in doing something when I've gotten to observe first.
Me too.
So getting to observe over and over and over and like take notes and like it truly just watch has been really helpful because I feel like had I been the first to do it or had I been like in a position to parent like a lot earlier in my life, I think I would have felt really overwhelmed, but being exposed to it now for so long and like people that like, you know, come in like from all kinds of like backgrounds and like approaches and stuff, like getting to watch all these different people do it and kind of have like this close up view or front row seat to it. It's given me a lot more confidence in my abilities, like what you're saying. Yeah. But I also think what you just said is like so profound. The fact that you are secure in yourself and exactly who you are, that you know, like, I'm going to be able to do this. I'm going to be able to execute and I'm going to raise a good kid. You know, that I think is important to come back to, especially because I tend toward over preparedness.
I love that for you though. Type A.
And I've had my like complexes with it and stuff, and I'm learning to embrace it more. I'm learning that I feel a lot better when I do feel prepared, but I also think that's a lot of my anxiety.
I agree.
And so I think being able to just like sit and like kind of sit back and be in a place of trust is also a really healthy thing to incorporate, because I think that like wanting to prepare comes from an anxious place sometimes.
And it's, remember that it's coming from a place of taking it seriously and caring.
Yeah, that's true.
I think the worst mistake that people can make is like, I'm going to have a fucking kid casually. Yeah. This is a whole person's life. Yeah. This is the only thing, in my opinion, because I love kids. It's the only fucking thing that matters. And so I do think that people that are just like, I want to have a kid because it's the next step in life, are the worst fucking people. Yeah. And that is so flippant and that is so selfish. And I think that wanting to be prepared isn't a bad thing. And I think a lot of kids who had really shitty childhoods would have wished that their parents would have had the folders, right? I think that where I push back on it a little bit is that every mother that I respect the most, I don't have a lot of fathers to ask questions about, but like I have a lot of moms in my life, and every mother I've ever talked to has said the same kind of thing, that it's like, you can buy all the books. You can, which is like modern day social media, right? You can make all the folders. You can buy all the books. You can fucking call your pediatrician over and over again. At the end of the fucking day, it is the most natural thing on the planet.
Yeah.
And I think it really is about stripping it down and just fucking being yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I guess for me, like if I were to birth a human, I would want to talk to not just the mothers in my life that I respect, but also the childless women. What is it about having children that didn't entice you? What are your anxieties around it? Because I think that having those perspectives, or having the perspective of like Aunt Sarah, who's like, no, I'm an aunt. That was the role that I was meant to have. I think that having every perspective from all of the people in your life that you respect, it, for me, I think would just be so much more impactful than reading What to Expect When You're Expecting. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
Like, I don't know. That's just me.
No, I think that was like so eye-opening for me, you know, to hear that perspective. Yes, she is spitting fire.
It's just like how can a book teach you about raising a human better than other humans?
Yes. And I think this is something that I want to talk about when we eventually have our like women's health conversation.
Wait for that episode,
is how unnecessary all the involvement is. You know, like it really, what you said about it being like the most natural and instinctual thing on the planet.
Yes, correct.
It's the same like with birth. Like we've made it such a like a medically necessary procedural thing. When it's not. When like the death rate of mothers went up when it became medical, and when like doctors started to get involved, when we took it out of like the female communities. And that's a whole nother conversation. But I think to lean into that instinct is so important. And I think we kind of have gotten like detached. Like I think, like it used to be so much more communal, but I think there is kind of there's a movement to return to the communal part of it, with like chosen family for people that, you know, don't have great like family systems at baseline and stuff, like raising kids with your friends. And like, we joke about it all the time, but like, it's not really a joke.
No, like, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we've talked about it too before, where like at a certain age, like you really need to have like your community be really strong, because when those kids are teenagers, they don't give a shit what you have to say. Biologically, they are wired to not care what you have to say.
It's a part of their development.
It's literally a part of their development. Yeah. And so it's really important that they have like good aunties and people around them.
Well, and that goes back to power dynamics, right? When you're raising it, I'm so passionate about teenagers. I fucking love teenagers, and they get a bad rep, and it's shitty.
Yeah.
I think instead, as a parent of like getting into the power dynamic, or like struggle with your teenager of like, I told you to do this, stop doing this, why are you so moody? No, babe. Let's plan ahead.
Yeah.
That inevitably is going to happen, that conflict. Let's build a fucking community. Let's surround this fucking kid with so many options of people that they can turn to when they inevitably are going to, because they fucking hate you.
Yes.
It's their job to hate you.
It's their job.
And like, that's kind of, I think, where my mindset is with like, instead of doing like the books or like getting on like mom talk, I don't know if that's a thing, whatever. But like, it feels more community based to turn to all of my ladies and men that I'll, you know, seek out. And I get to, the coolest thing about having your own kid is you get to cherry pick all the best things from the people around you. Right. So like maybe things where like my mom and I differ with parenting, or Chris and I, or who the fuck ever. Fuck, I'll talk to Aunt Sarah. I'll talk to anyone. Like I get to take all the best things and put that and like display them to my kid, but also bring those people around my kid.
And I think that's such a cool thing to be able to do, because I think a lot of people who grew up in challenging family dynamics, bully, no more.
Jesus.
lay down, bubs. People who grew up in challenging family dynamics, a lot of time their reaction is to not want to have kids.
Yeah.
And I think what's cool is when you do have kids coming from a challenging family dynamic and you get to flip the script.
Yes.
Because I think it can be like a barrier, but it's like, no, you really learned so much of like what a kid really does need.
Yeah.
And you could be that much more effective because you're aware of what hurts.
Yeah.
And like what doesn't feel good and what like was really challenging.
Well, and that's where I think that what like is so important is healing your shit first, right?
Yeah. Because you can't do that if you haven't healed your shit first, because then you perpetuate it.
Yeah. Like if you're just an open wounded little baby, then you're subconsciously, not intentionally, I would hope, you are still like, I mean, like generational trauma is a thing. And like, I do think that
you just recreate the same dynamics over and over.
And you think that you're okay, but like, no, take the steps. If you actually want to have a fucking kid.
Yeah.
You have to heal. And then that way you have the tools to not be overstimulated, to not be reactive, to not explode on your kid, and like really, really ground yourself and remember that the minute you have a kid, it isn't about you.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I think it's important to take care of yourself, but I think that it is such a big responsibility for a reason. And it's that you are consenting and you are choosing to bring on another life. If you don't have your own life, at least somewhat fixed, how the fuck are you bringing in another one?
Yeah.
And then you're going to drown.
Yeah.
Right. And,
and then you don't have the capacity for when they're.
It's all about planning ahead.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And then just inviting people in. Like when I have a kid, like I expect you and Taylor at the hospital and to be there every step of the way.
Yeah.
Because it can't just be my mom. And what my mom brings to the table is just one sliver of all of the things I want my baby to be exposed to.
Correct.
You know, like I want my kid to know about Croatian culture. I want my kid to like know to be playful and fun and silly like their Auntie Tay. I want them to be adventurous like Kathleen. Like all of those things I have built my circle and it all comes down to this.
Yeah.
I got to enjoy my circle and now I want my kid to enjoy my circle.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
I think that's the tactic I'm going to use. And like,
no, and I think I think it's like almost like how people who run really effective businesses run their business. They learn what they need to outsource.
Yeah.
You know, where they're not strong in something, it is so ineffective to try to learn that skill rather than bringing someone who already has that skill and is really fucking good at it.
Yeah.
So I think about that with parenting. You should absolutely exactly what you're just saying is bring in these people who have these great, gorgeous things to offer.
Yeah.
That your kid can be inspired by, can learn from, and I think it just makes a more like a well-rounded kid without having. Polly and I always talk about like, what's the Goldilocks amount of trauma that's like makes your kid resilient but doesn't totally fuck them up.
Right. I need to know that line.
Yeah. Where's the line? But also like, what if we went at it from like a different approach of just exposing them to a lot of different things that are like help in their formative years rather than like just traumatizing them.
Yeah. The trauma thing is the thing that holds me up the most, but I have to believe that like, it's kind of like with everything, like I've overthought my life and stressed about my life so much to the point where now I'm kind of like, you know what? If I'm showing up with like integrity and just being the best I can be in every situation, it's not going to fucking be perfect, obviously. But like, if I'm doing my part, then it's going to work out.
Yes.
Right? The kid's going to get traumatized. The kid is going to go through some shit.
Like your kid is inevitably going to get fucked up and some of it's going to be from you and you have to be able to be okay with that.
And recognizing it
take
and
accountability.
Like, my bad.
I'm a human
because
raising a human.
Because like what's so cool about being a human is like, yeah, we experience trauma and that's so hard. But as easy as it is to experience trauma, we can also heal it. Right. So like it's okay to traumatize your kid if you heal it.
Yeah, there's like exactly. I think that like the last thing I'll say is that there's this Dr. Will Cole, I follow him, and he like shares this concept a lot where he's like, if hurt people, then healed people can heal people.
Totally.
You know,
I
like
love that.
and you can perpetuate those good things too. Like if generational trauma can be passed down, so can generational healing.
Absolutely. Both can exist at the same time too. You can be someone that hurts someone, but then do something about it.
Yes.
You can also heal.
Yes. And you're not meant to heal every single generational trauma in your family,
That's
but you are
crazy.
here for something.
Yeah.
And like do that thing.
Do that thing.
Your kids and your like the rest of the generations will continue to heal your line.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
love that. I think that's a really good note to end
That
on.
was so cute.
That was a fun one.
So cutie.
Yeah.
I loved this conversation.
Oh, so fun. I love
Where
babies.
can everyone find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Kelly, Kellie, a Weld. And on TikTok, just Kelly Weld. What about you?
Love. Same kind of thing. I'm on TikTok and Instagram, more on Instagram. Well, not really. I don't know. You
Says
can
the
find me on
millennial.
socials.
Yeah. Says the millennial.
You can find me at Chloe Anna McKell on whatever social you can find me on. And you can find us on all socials at Let's Get Taboo.
Yeah. Watch us on YouTube, stream us on Apple and Spotify.
You can watch us on Spotify if you didn't know.
Yeah, so fancy.
We video upload because we're that cool. We're that ahead of the curves.
Shout out to Polly, I guess.
I don't know.
I don't either. I don't know how that
Who
works.
knows? But
anyway, I just show up here.
Probably. We just go here, okay?
Yeah, we just talk and talk and talk.
And talk.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Thank
and
you.
we'll see you next time.
Oh my God,
That was such a good one. I really enjoyed that.
That was a fun one.
That was
you
cutie.
need to get the fuck out of here.
No,
I'm really
gotta
sorry.
go.
Don't
No.
touch anything. I'm not kicking you out. I just want to honor your obligations.
Oh.